Driverly.com, unlimited drama series.
The doorbell chimed at exactly 3:47 p.m. on that sweltering June afternoon, and I knew my life was about to change forever. Not because I'm psychic or anything mystical like that. I'm a real estate developer, for Christ's sake, about as grounded as they come. No, I knew because my 18-year-old son Leo was arriving for his summer visit, and my 26-year-old wife Tessa had been acting stranger than a cat in a dog park for the past week. "Heath, honey, can you get that?" Tessa called from upstairs, her voice carrying that artificially sweet tone she used when she was up to something. "I'm just finishing my yoga session." Right, her yoga session, in our master bedroom, with the door locked. For the third time today. I set down my coffee and walked to the front door, passing the floor-to-ceiling windows that showcased our perfectly manicured lawn. The house was my pride and joy. A custom-built contemporary masterpiece overlooking the Columbia River Gorge, just outside Portland. 5,000 square feet of open-concept living, smart home technology, and enough glass to make a bird nervous. It had taken me 15 years of grinding through real estate deals to afford this place, and another 2 years to find someone I thought was worthy of sharing it with. That someone was currently upstairs doing suspicious yoga. I opened the door to find Leo standing there with his duffel bag, looking like a younger, taller version of myself. 6'2", broad shoulders from swimming, dark hair that refused to cooperate no matter how much product you threw at it. The kid had inherited the good genes and none of my cynicism. Yet. "Hey, Dad." He grinned and pulled me into one of those awkward father-son hugs that we'd been perfecting since his mother and I divorced 5 years ago. "Leo, good to see you. How was the drive from Seattle?" "Not bad. Traffic was light once I got past Olympia." He glanced around the entryway, taking in the marble floors and the abstract art Tessa had insisted on buying. "This place still blows my mind. Wait until you see what Tessa's done with the guest suite. She's been preparing for weeks." That was an understatement. My wife had spent the better part of May transforming Leo's room into something that looked like a cross between a luxury hotel and a fitness magazine photo shoot. New furniture, new bedding, new everything. She'd even installed blackout curtains, so he can sleep in after his workouts. "Heath, is that Leo?" Tessa's voice drifted down from the second floor, followed by the sound of bare feet on hardwood. "Yeah, he just got here," I called back. "Oh my God, I'll be right down. I just need to change out of these yoga clothes." Leo raised an eyebrow. "She seems excited. You have no idea." 30 seconds later, Tessa appeared at the top of the stairs, and I felt that familiar knot form in my stomach. She'd changed out of her yoga clothes, all right, into a sundress that barely qualified as clothing. The fabric was so thin it might as well have been tissue paper, and the neckline plunged deep enough to splunk in. "Leo!" She practically bounced down the stairs, her blonde hair flowing behind her like something out of a shampoo commercial. "Look at you! Oh my God, Heath! Look how handsome he's gotten." She threw her arms around my son in a hug that lasted exactly 3 seconds too long. I watched Leo's face go through a series of expressions: surprise, confusion, and something that looked disturbingly like appreciation. "Hi, Tessa. Thanks for having me." "Are you kidding? I've been looking forward to this for months." She stepped back but kept her hands on his shoulders, looking him up and down like she was appraising livestock. "You've been working out, haven't you? I can tell. Those shoulders." "I swim for the university team," Leo said, his voice cracking slightly. "It shows, doesn't it show, Heath? I mean, wow. The genetics in your family are just incredible." I cleared my throat. Maybe we should get Leo settled in. "Of course, but first, Leo, you have to see what I did with your room. I picked out everything myself. I wanted it to be perfect for you." She grabbed his hand and started pulling him toward the stairs. I followed behind, watching my wife's hips sway in that dress and wondering when exactly I'd married a walking hormone. The guest suite looked like something out of Architectural Digest. Tessa had replaced the old furniture with sleek modern pieces, added a mini fridge, and somehow managed to make the attached bathroom look like a spa. The bed was enormous, king size with Egyptian cotton sheets and enough pillows to stock a hotel. "This is incredible," Leo said, dropping his bag on the bench at the foot of the bed. You didn't have to do all this. I wanted to. Tessa perched on the edge of the bed, crossing her legs in a way that made her dress right up. I want you to be comfortable here. I want you to think of this as your home. That's very thoughtful, Leo said, but I caught him glancing at her legs. I was thinking we could work out together while you're here. I do yoga every morning, and I've been wanting to try some of those swimming workouts. You could teach me. Sure, that sounds fun. Fun, right. I'll let you get unpacked, I said, putting my hand on Tessa's lower back. Tessa, why don't we let Leo settle in? Oh, of course, but Leo, if you need anything, anything at all, just ask. I'm here all day. She gave him another one of those lingering looks before following me out of the room. As soon as we were in the hallway, I closed the door behind us. Don't you think you're being a little enthusiastic? I asked. What do you mean? Tessa blinked at me with those big blue eyes that had gotten me into this mess in the first place. The dress, the touching, the way you're looking at him. He's my son, Tessa. I'm just being welcoming. God, Heath, what's wrong with being nice to your family? Nice is one thing. What you're doing is something else entirely. She rolled her eyes and headed toward our bedroom. You're being paranoid. Leo's a sweet kid, and I want him to feel comfortable here. Is that a crime? I watched her walk away, that dress swishing around her thighs, and tried to convince myself that I was overreacting. Maybe I was being paranoid. Maybe she was just trying to be a good stepmother. Maybe the age difference between them, only 8 years, wasn't as weird as it felt. Maybe I was losing my mind. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of laughter coming from the kitchen. Tessa was already up, which was unusual. She typically slept until 10 and spent the first hour of her day posting inspirational quotes on Instagram. I checked the clock, 7:30 a.m. I pulled on a t-shirt and headed downstairs, following the scent of coffee and something that smelled suspiciously like actual breakfast. Tessa's idea of cooking usually involved ordering from Grubhub. The scene in the kitchen stopped me cold. Tessa was at the stove, wearing nothing but a sports bra and yoga shorts that left absolutely nothing to the imagination. She was making pancakes, from scratch apparently, while Leo sat at the breakfast bar in swim trunks and a tank top, his hair still wet from what I assumed was a morning workout. Good morning, sleepyhead, Tessa said without turning around. I made breakfast for our guest. I can see that. I poured myself coffee and tried not to stare at my wife's ass, which was on full display every time she reached for something. This is new. Leo told me he usually eats breakfast before his morning swim, so I thought I'd make something special. These are protein pancakes, banana, oats, and egg whites. Perfect for athletes. She set a plate in front of Leo, leaning over him in a way that put her cleavage directly at his eye level. The kid tried to look anywhere else, but biology is biology. Thanks, Tessa. This looks amazing. Anything for you, sweetie? Sweetie. She called my 18-year-old son Sweetie. I was thinking, Tessa continued, flipping another pancake with unnecessary hip movement. Maybe you could show me some of those swimming exercises today. I've been doing the same yoga routine for months, and I'm getting bored. Sure, I guess. The pool's perfect for laps. Oh, I don't want to just swim laps. I want you to teach me those strength exercises swimmers do. You know, the ones that build muscle definition. She flexed her arm, making her bicep pop. I want to be strong like you. I nearly choked on my coffee. Tessa, since when are you interested in strength training? Since I realized I've been neglecting my fitness, Leo's inspired me to push myself harder. She turned to smile at him, her tongue darting out to lick pancake batter off her lower lip. Haven't you, Leo? The poor kid turned red. I guess? Definitely. You're going to be my personal trainer this summer. Personal trainer. Jesus Christ. I finished my coffee and grabbed my keys. I've got a site visit this morning. Property inspection on that new development in Beaverton. Oh, that's too bad, Tessa said, not sounding disappointed at all. Leo and I will just have to entertain ourselves. I'm sure you'll figure something out. I kissed Tessa on the cheek. She smelled like vanilla and something else I couldn't identify, and headed for the garage. As I backed out of the driveway, I could see them through the kitchen window. Tessa still in that ridiculous outfit. Leo still trying not to stare. The drive to Beaverton gave me 40 minutes to think, which was 40 minutes too many. I tried to focus on work, the inspection, the timeline for the development, the dozen other projects I was juggling, but my mind kept drifting back to the scene in my kitchen. Tessa had never shown any interest in fitness beyond yoga and the occasional Pilates class. She'd never cooked breakfast for me, let alone from scratch. And she'd certainly never worn workout clothes that looked like they came from a porn set. But Leo was young, athletic, and looked enough like me to be appealing to someone who'd married me in the first place. The thought made my stomach turn. I pulled into the construction site and spent the next 3 hours going through the property with the inspector, checking electrical, plumbing, and foundation work. It was mindless, repetitive work that usually helped me relax. Today, it just gave me more time to imagine what was happening at home. By the time I got back, it was nearly noon. I expected to find them by the pool, maybe doing those strength exercises Tessa had mentioned. Instead, the house was quiet. Tessa? Leo? Out here. Tessa's voice came from the back deck. I walked through the sliding doors to find them lying side by side on yoga mats, both in workout clothes that left very little to the imagination. Tessa was on her back, her legs bent and spread in what she probably called a hip opener. Leo was face down in something that looked like a plank position, his muscles straining against his tank top. We're doing partner yoga, Tessa announced. Leo's helping me with my flexibility. I can see that. You should join us. Leo was just showing me this amazing stretch for the hip flexors. You spend so much time sitting in your truck, your hips must be so tight. I'm good, thanks. Come on, Dad, Leo said, pushing himself up from the mat. It's actually pretty relaxing. Maybe later. I've got some calls to make. I went inside and watched them through the window as I pretended to check emails. Tessa was now in some kind of backbend, her chest thrust toward the sky, while Leo spotted her with his hands on her lower back. The position looked more like foreplay than exercise. My phone buzzed with a text from my best friend Steve. Beer tonight? Jenny's working late. I typed back, definitely, 7 at Murphy's. I needed to talk to someone who wasn't crazy, someone who could tell me whether I was losing my mind or if my wife was actually trying to seduce my teenage son. Murphy's Tavern was the kind of place where cops and construction workers went to drink beer and complain about their lives. It was dark, loud, and completely free of yoga instructors in inappropriate clothing. Steve was already there when I arrived, nursing a Budweiser and scrolling through his phone. Steve Martinez was my oldest friend, a former Portland PD detective who'd retired early after taking a bullet in the leg during a domestic violence call. These days, he ran his own security consulting business, helping paranoid rich people protect their assets and their families. He was also the most level-headed person I knew. You look like shit, he said by way of greeting. Thanks. That's exactly what I needed to hear. I ordered a beer and sat down across from him. The bar was busy for a Tuesday night, filled with the usual crowd of blue-collar workers and off-duty city employees. The noise level was perfect for a private conversation. So, what's eating you? Steve asked. And don't say work. I know your work face, and this isn't it. It's Tessa. Ah, trouble in paradise? You could say that. I took a long pull of beer and tried to figure out how to explain the situation without sounding like a jealous lunatic. Leo's staying with us for the summer. Right, your kid? How's that going? That's the problem. I don't know how to describe it. She's acting weird around him. Weird how? Inappropriate. Flirty. She's been wearing these tiny outfits, making comments about his body, touching him more than she should. This morning I caught them doing partner yoga that looked more like soft-core porn. Steve raised an eyebrow. How old is Leo again? 18. And Tessa's what, 26? 26? Shit, Heath. That's only 8 years. I know. That's what's freaking me out. Steve was quiet for a moment, processing what I'd told him. He had a way of thinking through problems like the cop he used to be, considering all the angles before offering an opinion. Could be nothing, he said finally. Could be she's just trying to connect with your son, and she doesn't know how to do it appropriately. Some people are naturally touchy-feely. Tessa's not naturally anything. She calculates every move she makes. You should see her Instagram. Every post is planned, every photo is staged. She doesn't do anything without thinking about how it looks. So, what do you think she's thinking about? That was the question I'd been avoiding all day. I think she's attracted to him. I think she's testing the waters to see if he's attracted to her. And is he? He's 18, and she looks like a fitness model. What do you think? Steve finished his beer and signaled for another round. Okay, let's say you're right. What are you going to do about it? I don't know. I can't exactly forbid my wife from talking to my son. And I can't send Leo away. He's supposed to be here all summer. And this is the first time in years we've had a chance to spend real time together. You could talk to Tessa. I tried that. She acted like I was being paranoid. Maybe you are.
A couple spa. You took her to the place we go. It was a birthday gift. She's a friend. Friends don't get $500 couples massage.
Watch more on Grammarly.com.
Maybe. But what if I'm not? The bartender brought our second round, and we sat in silence for a few minutes, watching a baseball game on the TV above the bar. I tried to imagine having this conversation with anyone else, my lawyer, my business partner, my ex-wife, and realized how insane it would sound. My young wife wants to sleep with my teenage son. It sounded like the plot of a bad porn movie. You want my advice? Steve said finally. That's why I'm here. Document everything. If something's going on, you need proof. Take pictures, record conversations, keep a journal of what you see. And be careful, if you're wrong about this and Tessa finds out you're spying on her, your marriage is over anyway. And if I'm right? If you're right, your marriage is over. But at least you'll have evidence for the divorce. I stared at my beer, thinking about the house, the life I'd built, the future I'd planned. 2 years ago, I'd thought I'd found the perfect woman. Beautiful, young, ambitious, someone who could match my energy and share my success. Now I was sitting in a dive bar, planning to spy on her. There's something else, I said. Something I haven't told you. What? The prenup. I insisted on one before we got married, and Tessa fought it hard. Really hard. But her lawyer convinced her to sign it, probably because she figured she could change my mind later. What are the terms? If she cheats, she gets nothing. No alimony, no property settlement, nothing. She walks away with whatever she brought into the marriage, which was what? A 10-year-old Honda and about $3,000 in credit card debt. Steve whistled low. So if she's planning to cheat, she's either really stupid or really confident. Or really desperate. What do you mean? I'd been thinking about this all day, trying to understand Tessa's motivation. She's 26 years old, married to a guy 14 years older than her, living in a house she can't afford on her own. Her yoga instructor career isn't exactly setting the world on fire. If she wants out of the marriage, she needs a plan. And seducing your son is a plan how? Think about it. If she can get Leo to fall for her, she's got leverage. She could threaten to expose the relationship, claim I was a bad father who allowed it to happen, maybe even accuse me of encouraging it. Suddenly, the prenup doesn't look so ironclad. Steve stared at me like I'd grown a second head. That's pretty fucking diabolical, Heath. Yeah, it is. You really think your wife is capable of that? I thought about Tessa's Instagram account, carefully curated to project an image of wellness and spirituality. I thought about the way she'd fought the prenup, the way she'd insisted on expensive furniture and designer clothes, the way she'd quit her job at the yoga studio 6 months after we got married because she wanted to focus on building her brand. Yeah, I said, I think she is. I spent the next 3 days watching my wife like a hawk, and what I saw confirmed my worst suspicions. Tessa's behavior around Leo wasn't just inappropriate, it was predatory. She'd wake up early to make him breakfast, always in workout clothes that belonged in a strip club. She'd find excuses to touch him, adjusting his form during their yoga sessions, rubbing sunscreen on his shoulders by the pool, hugging him goodbye when I left for work. She'd make comments about his body. that would have gotten a man arrested for sexual harassment. And Leo was responding exactly the way any 18-year-old would. He tried to be respectful, tried to maintain appropriate boundaries, but he was fighting a losing battle against biology and a woman who knew exactly what she was doing. On Thursday morning, I decided to test my theory. "I've got to drive down to Eugene today," I announced over breakfast. "Property inspection on that apartment complex we're renovating. I'll probably be gone until evening." "Oh, that's too bad," Tessa said, not looking up from her phone. "Leo and I were planning to work on his backstroke technique." "In the pool?" "Of course in the pool, silly. Where else would you practice swimming?" "Right, well, you two have fun." I kissed Tessa goodbye and made a show of loading my laptop and files into my truck. But instead of driving to Eugene, I parked at the coffee shop down the road and called Steve. "I need that favor we talked about," I said when he answered. "The surveillance equipment?" "Yeah. Can you meet me at the house in an hour? Tessa thinks I'm in Eugene for the day." "This is really what you want to do?" "It's what I have to do." Steve arrived 60 minutes later with a duffel bag full of equipment that looked like it came from a spy movie. Wireless cameras, audio recorders, motion sensors, all of it small enough to hide in plain sight. "This stuff is legal, right?" I asked as we set up cameras in the living room and kitchen. "You're recording activity in your own house. Perfectly legal as long as you're not planning to distribute the footage." "I'm not planning to distribute anything. I just need to know what's happening when I'm not here." We placed cameras with clear views of the main living areas and the pool deck. Steve also gave me a smartphone app that would let me monitor the feeds remotely. "The audio's the tricky part," he said as we finished up. "Oregon's a two-party consent state, so you can't record conversations without everyone's permission." "What if I'm one of the parties?" "Then you're good. But if you're not in the room, anything you record is inadmissible in court." "I'm not planning to go to court. I just want to know the truth." Steve packed up his equipment and headed out. I waited another 30 minutes, then drove home, making sure to park loudly in the driveway and slam the front door. "I'm back," I called out. "Already?" Tessa appeared from the kitchen, her hair wet and her bikini barely covering anything important. "I thought you were going to Eugene." "Project got postponed." "Where's Leo?" "Upstairs changing. We just finished swimming." "How was his backstroke?" "Much better. I'm a good teacher." "I'll bet you are," I thought. That evening, after Leo had gone to bed and Tessa was in the shower, I checked the camera feeds on my phone. What I saw made my blood run cold. The footage showed Tessa and Leo by the pool, but they weren't working on swimming technique. They were lying on lounge chairs, talking and laughing like old friends. At one point, Tessa had gotten up to adjust Leo's chair, pressing her body against his back in the process. Later, she'd asked him to help her apply sunscreen, turning the simple task into an extended massage. But the worst part was the conversation. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but their body language told the story. Tessa was flirting shamelessly, and Leo was responding. By the time I'd returned from my fake trip, they'd been sitting close enough to kiss. I deleted the footage and tried to sleep, but my mind was racing. Tessa was moving faster than I'd expected, and Leo was falling for it. I needed to do something before the situation got completely out of hand. The next morning, I made a decision that would change everything. "Leo," I said over breakfast, "I want to show you something." I pulled out my phone and opened the camera app, making sure Tessa could see what I was doing. "This house has a state-of-the-art security system. Cameras everywhere, inside and outside. Motion sensors, audio recording, the whole package." Tessa's face went pale. "Why are you telling us this?" "Just want everyone to know that everything that happens here is recorded. For insurance purposes, you understand. Liability protection." I looked directly at Leo. "So if anything inappropriate were to happen, anything at all, it would be documented. Permanently." "That's good to know," Leo said, but he wouldn't meet my eyes. Tessa excused herself to go upstairs, and I heard the bedroom door slam. Leo finished his breakfast in silence and then disappeared to his room. I'd fired a warning shot across their bow. Now I had to wait and see if they were smart enough to heed it. They weren't smart enough. If anything, my warning seemed to make Tessa more determined. Over the next week, she ramped up her seduction campaign to a level that would have made a professional escort blush. She started doing yoga in the living room, right in front of the security cameras. wearing outfits that defied the laws of physics. She'd ask Leo to help her with difficult poses that required him to put his hands on her body. She'd emerge from the shower in a towel that barely covered her assets, claiming she'd forgotten to bring clothes to the bathroom. And Leo, God help him, was cracking under the pressure. I watched it all through the security feeds, documenting every inappropriate touch, every lingering glance, every moment that crossed the line from stepmother-stepson interaction into something else entirely. The footage was damning, but it wasn't enough. I needed something that would hold up in court, something that would void the prenup and protect me from whatever scheme Tessa was planning. I needed to catch them in the act. The opportunity came on a Friday afternoon in July. I had a site visit scheduled in Bend, a 3-hour drive that would keep me away overnight. I'd booked a hotel room and made sure Tessa knew I wouldn't be back until Saturday evening. "It's too bad you'll miss the meteor shower," Tessa said as I packed my overnight bag. "Leo and I were planning to watch it from the pool deck. I'm sure you'll find ways to entertain yourselves." I left at noon, driving just far enough to be out of sight before doubling back and parking at a gas station down the road. Steve met me there with more surveillance equipment, long-range cameras that could capture high-definition video from a distance. "You sure about this?" he asked as we set up the equipment in his van. "I'm sure. Because once you see whatever you're going to see, you can't unsee it." "I know." We positioned ourselves with a clear view of the pool deck and the sliding doors that led to the master bedroom. The waiting was the worst part, sitting in a hot van, watching my house through a telephoto lens, knowing that my marriage was about to end. At 8:30 p.m., Tessa and Leo appeared on the pool deck with a bottle of wine and 2 glasses. They spread out blankets and lay down to watch the sky, their bodies close enough to touch. I watched through the camera as Tessa pointed out constellations, her hand resting on Leo's chest. At 9:15, she kissed him. It wasn't a quick peck or an accidental brush of lips. It was a full, passionate kiss that lasted 30 seconds and left no doubt about her intentions. Leo hesitated for a moment, then kissed her back. "Jesus," Steve muttered. "Heath, I'm sorry." I didn't respond. I was too busy watching my wife seduce my son, documenting every moment for the divorce proceedings that would follow. At 9:45, they moved inside. "That's enough," Steve said. "You've got what you need." But I didn't stop recording. I followed them through the telephoto lens as they moved through the house, Tessa leading Leo by the hand toward the master bedroom. I watched as she turned on the lights, the same lights I'd installed in the bedroom I'd designed, on the bed I'd bought for our wedding night. And then I watched my 18-year-old son have sex with my 26-year-old wife. The footage was crystal clear, high-definition evidence of adultery that would void any prenup ever written. But as I sat in that van, watching the 2 people I loved most in the world betray me in the most intimate way possible, I realized that winning the legal battle wasn't going to heal the emotional damage. Some wounds don't heal. They just teach you how much pain you can survive. "Turn it off," I said finally. Steve powered down the equipment and started packing up. "What's your next move?" I stared at the house, my dream, my life, and felt something cold and hard settle in my chest. "Total erasure," I said. I didn't go home that night. Instead, I checked into the hotel in Bend that I'd supposedly been staying at all along and spent the dark hours planning the systematic destruction of my wife's life. By sunrise, I had a strategy. The first call went to my lawyer, Patricia Chen, who specialized in high-net-worth divorces and had a reputation for ruthless efficiency. "I need to see you Monday morning," I said when she answered. "First thing, and I need you to recommend a private investigator." "What's the situation?" "Adultery, I have video evidence." "How explicit?" "Explicit enough." "Bring everything. We'll file by end of business Monday." The second call went to my accountant. "I need you to freeze all joint accounts immediately," I said. "Credit cards, checking, savings, everything. And I need a complete audit of our finances going back 2 years." "Heath, what's going on?" "My wife's been cheating. I need to know if she's been stealing too." The third call was the hardest. I dialed my ex-wife Sarah, Leo's mother. "Heath, it's early. Is everything okay?" "No, it's not. I need to talk to you about Leo." I told her everything. Tessa's inappropriate behavior, the seduction, what I'd witnessed the night before. Sarah listened without interrupting, but I could hear her getting angrier with every detail. That manipulative bitch, she said finally. She groomed him, Heath. What she did is predatory, and it's not Leo's fault. I know that, but I need him out of the house before this gets ugly. I'll drive down this afternoon. I'll tell him there's a family emergency. Thank you. By the time I returned to Portland on Saturday evening, the trap was set. I walked into my house to find Tessa and Leo on the couch, watching a movie with suspicious amounts of space between them. They both jumped when I came through the door. Hey, Tessa said, her voice artificially bright. How was Bend? Productive. I set down my overnight bag and looked directly at Leo. Your mom called. Your grandmother's in the hospital. She's driving down to pick you up. Leo's face went white. Is she okay? She'll be fine, but your mom wants you home. It was a lie, but a necessary one. Leo needed to be gone before I dropped the hammer on Tessa. Sarah arrived 2 hours later and collected Leo with minimal explanation. I watched from the window as they drove away, knowing it might be the last time I saw my son for a very long time. That's terrible about his grandmother, Tessa said as we watched the car disappear down the street. Yeah, terrible. She moved closer to me, pressing her body against my arm. But now we have the house to ourselves again. Maybe we could open a bottle of wine, relax in the hot tub. I looked down at her, this beautiful, manipulative woman who destroyed my family for reasons I still didn't understand, and felt nothing but contempt. Actually, I'm pretty tired. I think I'll just go to bed. I could help you relax, she said, her hand sliding down my chest. Thanks, but I'm good. I went upstairs and locked myself in the guest room, leaving Tessa alone with her confusion. Tomorrow would bring lawyers and divorce papers and the beginning of